If you are here on the replay, you can fast forward just a little bit because I'm going to wait for more people to get on. Let me take off my bangles or else it's going to be loud. But welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Ashley Empowers. I am a high earning housewife and I encourage women to steward their businesses and their homes with excellence. And today I am going to be sharing with you our twin testimony. So, if you do not know, I am currently pregnant with twin girls to be specifically. It's completely spontaneous. And it was on my heart today just to share our testimony. And I've been wanting to do this, but time has kind of just got away from me. And in this season of my life, just be expecting more live content because I'm able to do this versus kind of doing my whole setup type vibe. So let me make sure that I am live and everything is good. Hey, Girl Meets Kingdom. Yes, this is live. Okay, so I can see all the comments. All right. So let's get into it. And I have a couple of notes here in case you see me looking down. But long story short, this year, my husband and I found out that we are going to be having twins. And I have always been very fascinated with twins. I have prayed for twins in the past, and it's literally been my prayer over the years. But when my husband and I, we have two other children, a 5 and a 7-year-old, we have been very content with two kids. We have a boy, we have a girl. We thought possibly that we were done. People would always ask us, like, do you guys want more kids? And our response would just be like, we're very content with the two that we have, but hashtag God's plan. And I grew up with my mom, and on my mom's side, she has 4 girls. And when I look at my mom's life and how she always has things going on, how for the holidays, it's literally so many people, her children, her children's significant others, our children, right? Like one Easter we were at, I think we were at my mom's house and there was like 11 people and all my, like, I think one of my sisters wasn't even there with her family. And so I just remember telling my mom, I was like, Mom, like all of these people are here because of you, right? And so I've always loved having a big family and I've seen myself with a big family. But like I said, we've been content with 2. And I'm a type of person who, when my husband and I talk about family planning and kids, I've always said 2 or 4 because I personally prefer to have children that have a playmate. So like my son and our daughter, they are 2.5 years apart and they're in pairs. And side note, my mom has always said over the years, she read this book, I want to say about like birth order. And I think the guy's name was Dr. somebody. It was like a really old book, but he himself had his children in pairs. Like him and his wife had a set early on in their marriage. And then some years down the line, they had another set. So she always kind of like would tell me that, but that's either here nor there. So I have always been fascinated with twins. I have loved the idea of having a big family just because holidays are so much fun. They're so packed out with family. Just being around my mom, her kids, our significant others. And so fast forward to 2023 last year, I was volunteering at Vacation Bible School at our church. And I was leading a group of, I was helping with a group of like second graders. And another lady she had her own, like we all had like little groups of kids and she had a group of second graders. So we ended up getting to know each other, sparking up a conversation. And she was telling me how she had two sets of twins. And I was like, I believe she had two sets of twins and another child. And so we were having this conversation, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that sounds so amazing. Like I've always been fascinated with twins. And I was like, is this what, like, it was this like intentional? And she was like, absolutely. She said her first set of twins, she said, Ashley, I prayed for them. Like I prayed for them. I asked God for them. I had faith that I was going to have them. And she said when she found out she was pregnant, she knew she was having twins. Like she was like, I already knew it. Like my faith in God is strong. I knew that he would hear my prayer. And so I was like, I just walked away from that conversation like, wow. And I remember we exchanged information, we exchanged numbers, and I texted her and I was like, your testimony increased my faith. And at the time, I still wasn't sure if I was like on board to have more kids, but just hearing her testimony was amazing. And that also makes me think about a woman that I met probably about a year ago. We went out to breakfast or something. Like we met up in the Dallas area, and she has a set of twin boys. And she pulled out her phone and she was like, oh, I prayed for my sons. And I was like, what do you mean you prayed? She was like, she said, I have a note that I prayed and asked God for twin boys. And I even prayed for how they would look. And they look exactly how I prayed. And so I'm filing these things in the back of my mind because I'm just like, this sounds so silly for me to say this, but I'm like, people really pray like this specifically for things like even kids, you know what I'm saying? So I'm filing all of this in the back of my mind. And so again, 2023, I turned 35, and my husband and I were having a lot of just different discussions on family planning. Because in my mind, I'm like, I'm 35 and I have like, everybody has their own desires. I did not desire to have kids past 35. Okay. Like, I'm just like, that's kind of like my cutoff age in my mind. That's my preference. And so I was like, hey, I'm turning 35 this year. Like, are we talking about this? Is this something that you really want to do? And my husband, he'd be like, no, I'm good with two. And then one day he'll be like, no, actually, I can see myself having one more. And I'm like, well, if we're going to have one more, we're having two more because this little baby will need a playmate. So throughout this past year, like when I was 34, I turned 35 in October, it was just conversation after conversation. One day we'd be like, okay, let's do this. And then the other day we'd be like, nah, we good. But then it just, all my mom friends that I know, they've always said, when you are done having kids, you will know it. It will be a strong no. And the fact, Ashley, that you're still contemplating and considering having more kids, that means you're not done. So I'm just like, okay, I believe that. So, also, one day I remember in my bed, I had two names come to my mind, like children's names. And I text my husband the name in the meaning of the name. He calls me immediately. He said, why'd you just text me two kids' names? And I said, those are the names of our future kids. And he was like, that is so crazy. He said, I literally just prayed in the car that, Lord, if it's your will for me to have kids, I'm like more kids, I'm open to it. Like he was like, his prayer was along the lines of like, I'm willing, right? Like I'm willing. And then I texted him two kids' names and he called me immediately. All right. So that was crazy. Another thing that's crazy is this past year, I was planning a retreat to Bali. And before I even announced it to the public, I was having some, how do I say it? I had this desire to plan this retreat in Bali, but at the same time, like spiritually, it wasn't lining up with the timing. Like I felt in my spirit, like how I know, and and I'm going to do a video about this, like just following your inner guidance, the Holy Spirit. But I was having a hard time like confirming that I was going to do this, because something in my spirit was telling me that I could possibly be family planning. So I was like going back and forth, like, why am I so indecisive about doing this? Long story short, the people who planned this Bali retreat, I sent them an email and I said, hey, you know what? I don't think I'm going to do it. Well, actually, pause. Before I sent them this email, I was talking to my husband, who is literally about to be a licensed therapist. So I'd be like sharing with him like thoughts and feelings. And, if I'm struggling to make a decision, it's like we kind of talk through like, what's the block, right? So he was like, what's going on? Like, why can't you make this decision? And I'm like, well, like, if I'm in my mind, if I go to Bali, I'm not going to be pregnant, right? Like, and then he was like, but why not? He said, why don't you schedule Bali and you can just, it was like this comment, like, what if you're just pregnant while you're there? Like, you're just not super far along. And I was like, oh, okay. It gave me like instantly a sense of peace. Mind you, we still weren't sure if we were going to have more kids. But I'm like, well, if I was pregnant on the retreat, that would be fine. Like, I went to China when I was pregnant with my son. Like, I would be fine. So I still ended up telling the trip people that, no, I'm just going to kind of postpone this. And they were like, okay, we'll postpone it. They still sent out the notification for people to sign up for this trip. People started to sign up for this trip. And so then I was like, okay, this is meant for me to do, right? So I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, if you guys are serious about having children, you'll just be pregnant on this trip. Just let the chips fall where they may. So boom, that happened. We're actually going to Bali in like a week and I'm pregnant, right? So it's like, before we even made the decision, I had the wisdom in knowing that, Ashley, you're going to be pregnant on this trip, which is just crazy to me. So long story short, we never made a final decision on this is what we were going to do. Like, as you're hearing me speak, it was a topic of conversation, but it was never firmly decided. And I say that because I posted a video of me finding out when I was pregnant, and it was absolutely a shock. And not a shock in the sense of, what you need to do to get pregnant, but it was a shock in like, wait, we never said like, this is like what we was for sure doing, right? And with our other two kids, they were absolutely intentional. We were like, yes, we're ready for this kid. Yes, we're ready for this kid. And it wasn't a shock when I was pregnant because we were very intentional about these children. And so, long story short, and I want to, oh man, okay, y'all. This is going to be a little bit long. Oh, wait, can y'all see? Y'all, hold on. So I can see myself on my laptop, and I have on pajama pants. I'm in the house super comfy, but I have on this bodysuit that fits me pre-pregnancy, but I didn't know y'all can see my little tummy. Okay, anyway, this is ladies here. Okay, so anyway, I have a few more like pertinent things to share with this testimony because it all comes together. So I want to say it was in August, late August. I was at my house one day and I had this divine nudge. And I'll do a video let me know if you want me to do a video on divine nudges. But I had this divine nudge of, Ashley, you don't drink anymore. And mind you, I was like never a big drinker, but if I would go out for yes, that's right. So if I would go out for like a girl's dinner, maybe I would have like a margarita, like just a glass of wine, something little. So, but I had this divine nudge that said, you don't drink anymore. And not that you don't drink, but like your identity, you're not a drinker. So it's like it's not like you're stopping anything. You just no longer identify with somebody that drinks alcohol. Just randomly, this was the thought that I had. You're not a drinker anymore. That's not who you are. So I remember like 2 nights later, I told my husband, I was like, "Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I don't drink anymore." And he's like, "Okay, like I never see you drinking anyway, Ashley." Like, he's like, oh, like, he was just so like, okay, whatever. Like, cause I don't barely drink anyway. So he was just like, okay. So after that, I literally had like a couple girlfriends that I like went out to dinner with, and they're ordering their, their little drinks, their martinis, and I'm not ordering anything because I'm not a drinker, right? And there was like a few event type things where I was offered alcohol, and I'm like, "Oh no, I don't drink. Like that's just not what I do anymore." And which is very interesting to me because about a month or two later, I find out that I'm pregnant. So I'm just like, golly, like the Holy Spirit's so amazing that he's preparing you for what he's purposing you to do. So fast forward to, I want to say September of last year, 2023, I was in church. My husband and I were in church, and a lady walks in the front row, or not the front row, the row right in front of us. And she has two twin boys. And I'm like elbowing my husband, like, "Oh, like she has two twin boys. They look like they were about 14 or 15. They were identical, and they were still dressing alike at teenagers." And so I was just like, "Oh my gosh, like that's so cute." And so that day in church, excuse me, that day in church, I specifically prayed, and I said, "Lord, if it is in your will for me to have more children, for us to have more children, I ask for twins." I specifically asked, I made my request known, and that was that. So fast forward to, my months might be all over the place, but shortly after that, I found out that, oh, pause. Y'all, there's so many little details. I hope this is serving somebody, okay? I hope this is edifying, serving somebody. So boom, prayed that prayer. Something else that was very interesting is my son, who was 4 at the time, he would say, "Mommy, I'm praying for a baby brother. I'm praying that you have a baby." And so I was like, "Okay, son, ask God for whatever you want." Okay. So he would say, "I'm praying for you to get pregnant." So I would be like, "Okay, Theodore, like with your little cute self, I just love you." And twice before I found out I was pregnant, my son walked up to me and poked me in my stomach and said, "There's a baby in there." And so I told my husband, I said, "Carrington," I said, "Theodore has came up to me twice and told me there's a baby in there." So I call him my little prophetic son, my little prophetic baby. And so one time we were in the kitchen, Carrington was at the sink, I was at the pantry. Teddy walks up to me and he said, "There is for sure a baby in there." And so I look at Carrington, I was like, "See, I told you, like he has been saying this." And so shortly after those experiences with Theodore praying, with me praying at church, I find out that I was pregnant. And again, I think on YouTube and on Instagram, TikTok, I show my reaction, which was genuinely shocked, because I'm like, "Well, wait a minute, is this like for real, for real?" Like, we never said like for sure yes. So found out that I was pregnant, and November 27th, I remember I have my journal that I literally journal my prayers in. And on November 27th, let me flip to it. And this is when I hadn't even gone to the doctor yet. Okay. So I like to show like receipts. Okay. No, that's January. Hold on, you guys. I'm getting close. I'm like November 27th. Okay. So November 27th, I'm journaling and I put like my request, big, bold prayers only you can answer. And then I have like a whole bunch of stuff that I wrote down, and not everything has been answered. So it's not like everything is a yes, but this was aligned with God's will. So I prayed, I said, I pray and I ask for healthy, thriving twins. And I give some like specifications. This is again, before my very first doctor's appointment. So I hadn't even been to the doctor. All I had was a positive pregnancy test. And I wrote down what I was believing God for. So, when I found out I was pregnant, so I wrote down November 27th, I wrote down what I was believing God for. One of my friends, Courtney, we she lives in Houston. She came to Dallas. We went out to lunch and, I think I told her, no, after she went back to Houston, I texted her that I was pregnant. She was like one of the first people that I told. And she responded, what are you hoping for? And I said, well, I'm believing God for twins, a boy and a girl. And she was like, wow, that would be awesome. Second, Theodore's birthday was in December. We had a birthday party. Our friends, Amanda and Michael Pittman, they were here late after the party. And we were all just like talking at our dining room table. And I was so early, I hadn't even gone to the doctor. We weren't telling people that I was pregnant. We weren't telling, we told our immediate family, but we weren't telling just the world. So they came over for the party, they stayed late, and we told them that we were pregnant. And I told them, I was like, hey, I'm believing God for twins. And they were like, wow, that's incredible. So December 18th, 2023 was my first doctor's appointment, my 8-week appointment. And for you ladies that have been pregnant before, you know that 8 weeks is the time frame where you typically have your first doctor appointment. And what they are looking for is a heartbeat, right? So that's like the big appointment to confirm that there's a heartbeat. So we get to this doctor's office, and it was like not a traditional doctor's office, but she is a traditional doctor. Anyway, so we get to the doctor's office. I walk in, the lady at the front desk, very sweet, very kind, very nice. I see she has a picture framed of 2 girls. I said, oh, are those your daughters? They're so beautiful. And she's like, yeah, they're twins. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Because I've always had a fascination with twins. I was like, that's so cool. So it's Carrington and I at this doctor's appointment. And I go in and the doctor is there. She's, doing asking questions, blah, blah, blah. And I lay down, she puts the stuff on my stomach, and she starts doing the sonogram or the ultrasound, whatever. And she looks at me and Carrington, and she lets out a big, so I'm quiet because, again, this is the doctor's appointment. You want to make sure there's a heartbeat. This is the doctor's appointment. You want to make sure everything is okay. So I'm just very quiet, and I'm wondering in my mind, is everything okay? And then she starts moving the thing around on my stomach some more. And she says, is this your very first doctor's appointment? And I was like, yes. And she looks at us And she says, "You're having twins." And Carrington and I, we were just, we were just literally like screaming and shouting for joy. We were screaming and we were shouting for joy. And it's interesting because on the video that I shared with me announcing, well, me finding out that I was pregnant, at the very end of that video, I forgot to say this. At the very end of that video, Carrington makes a comment, and you can go to my page and watch it. He makes a comment and he says, "I hope it's twins because I'm not doing this again," which is funny because it's like he's not the one carrying the baby, you know? So it was laughable, but he literally was like, I pray it's twins. And before that 8-week appointment, that's, you know, my first trimester, and I was like 7 weeks, right? When I was like 7 weeks, I was so nauseous. I felt so sick. Like, I felt horrible, just normal pregnancy symptoms. And I remember telling Carrington, I was like, "Hey, you know that thing that me talking about, well, I'm gonna do this again for a fourth kid." I literally was like, I don't know if I want to go through this again because I feel really sick. And so I was like, we might just have to settle with 3, right? I literally told him that. We might just have to settle with 3 because I don't think I want to go through all these pregnancy symptoms a fourth time to have Irish twins. So, but anyway, long story short, when the doctor told us that we were having twins, I was like, it's a moment I will never forget. It's a moment where I was like, "God, you really heard me. Like, you really answered." And we were just like giving him glory. And it was just an amazing feeling. Like, I did nothing in my power besides love on my husband to orchestrate this. Like, this wasn't by Ashley's hand, right? This was not by my hand. This was divine, right? This was divine. And so we found out December 18th that I'm having twins. And what is so wild about this story is December 18th is my older sister's birthday. So we called her to give her the news. And I text my best friend, or wait, hold on, when did I tell her? Anyway, I text my best friend and she responds and she said, "Ashley, do you know that December 18th is National Twin Day?" I can't make this up. I cannot make this up. So I find out on National Twin Day, that we're having twins. So it was absolutely incredible. And I'm sure, I mean, there's probably some other like little stuff that has happened, but all in all, I share this in hope that this increases somebody's faith. When you pray prayers of faith that are aligned with the will of God and God answers them, it is a testimony that you can share that will increase the faith of other people. And so if you made it to the end of this, if you've watched this whole thing, I just want to tell you thank you. And I just pray that this encourages you, that this just literally strengthens your faith, and whatever's been on your heart, the desires that you have the confidence to ask for them boldly. And even so, I highly recommend like writing your prayers down, so when you do have answered prayers, you can reference them back and say, like, pinpoint when you made your request known. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love you. God loves you. Jesus loves you. And just due to, okay, let me say this last thing. It has been nearly probably 6 months since I've posted like a video on my YouTube channel. And the last long form video content I posted was sharing how the season of my life has changed when it comes to my priorities. So I was retiring some things in my business. I was shifting some things, and I did not know why. Now I know why. Now I know why I have had such a stronger conviction to focus on my family, to rest, to really heal my nervous system, to relax, to cease striving, to really make room for the growth of our family. I had to lay some things down because God has expanded our territory when it comes to the ministry of our home. And I do plan on sharing more here. It'll be more content like this where it's live, because in this season of my life, I really just don't have a lot of time to like do the whole fancy setup. So I hope that's fine with you guys, because I'm very much willing to share like this. But what has kept me like these past few months of getting on YouTube is this thought that I need to have all of my equipment, all of my lights, all of my blah, blah, blah. And now I'm at the point of time, like now I'm at this frame of mind where I'm just like, hopefully through my words and my message, you're not focused on the aesthetic, but you're focused on the heart behind what I'm sharing. So I hope that makes sense. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you very, very soon in my next video. Bye for now.